Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Claudia Monticelli with another episode of Multiple Voices. My Multiple Voices podcast, true to its name, includes different series. For example, we have the Voices of Love, where we discuss relationships, the voice of empowerment, the voice of laughter and play, the voice of pleasure, and the magical voice of archetypes and how they change the way we live. But we also have the voice of memory that includes everything from history to discussions of past life regression. There's also writing voices, where we interview both seasoned writers and authors who have just started getting their feet wet with writing, and we learn what can work for you as potential writers. Our series called Voice of the Spirit discusses different forms of spirituality and religion. And then Channeling Voices is a series that covers what happens when you channel, but is also extended to mediumship. Take a moment to review this podcast if you've enjoyed listening, and leave a hearty 5 stars. I'd appreciate it. Enjoy your listening. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Claudia Monticelli again with another episode of Multiple Voices. Today I'm with Rachel Astarte. Right? Did I get that right? Hello.
Yeah.
Say hello, Rachel, to our audience.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Claudia.
Thank you for taking the time. Rachel is talking to us from New York State in the United States. And a little bit about her before I dive into with all the questions. She's a psychotherapist, an author, an educator, and a podcaster. What's the name of your podcast?
The podcast is called Self-Talk with Rachel Astarte.
All right. She's the author of Celebrating Solitude, How to Discover and Honor Your Higher Self. This is interesting. We could lead with that. She hosts the podcast, like she just said, which helps listeners develop a healthy sense of self and is available, of course, where all podcasts are streamed. She has, her therapy is fully virtual and is dedicated to the vision of unity through individuality. So this is a very specific perspective that you had. In other words, she believes that the stronger our foundation of self, the better we can contribute to the world around us. And at the end, we'll talk about where they can find you. Now, Celebrating Solitude, How to Discover and Honor Your Higher Self. What is that all about?
Well, it really goes hand in hand with part of what you shared in the introduction is when we have a foundation of self, we are better able to contribute our gifts to the world around us, which I think is pretty much what life is all about. So how do we get to truly know who we are except in solitude?
Okay, wait.
Yeah, please.
We have to take this one at a time because you talk about a foundation. And I'd like you, if you can, building a strong foundation. What do you mean by this foundation?
So the foundation of self is when we are feeling most resonant in who we are. So our main consult would be our true selves, our inner selves. So
Give me an example.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, for example, as a mother, I'm a mother, and that's one of the roles that I play. That's a title that I have.
Yeah.
How I mother can come from what my inner knowing says mothering is, or it can come from me looking at all the other mothers out there and comparing myself to what mother means in society, or say in Western society where I live. So
what is the difference there?
Right. So the difference is that I am looking for validation outside of myself when I compare with other people, rather than looking into what resonates with my true knowing, which is my true self. And we all have a true self. When I consult that, the way that I mother will be in alignment with my true nature. And then it's not tainted by comparisons or expectations that others might
Yeah.
have of me. So
Yeah.
if I'm constantly trying to be the mother that I see on Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
I may be doing a disservice. I would be doing a disservice to myself and to my child.
According to
Rather
you.
than,
Yeah.
yes, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that we spend too much of our energy trying to live up to the expectations, trying to fit into what society wants of us instead of checking with our deepest self,
Okay.
which really has the path we're meant to be on.
Okay. So I'm going to play the devil's advocate here.
Sure.
We have these words, and you led with self. That's a big important. That's your topic, right? The self. Now, many philosophers have said, well, look around, look around. Do you find the self? Where is the self? Up and down, look, where is that self? And the same can be said with words like soul. Where is that soul? Where does it reside? Now,
Mm-hmm.
and since you talk about your higher self, the title
Mm-hmm.
of the book, How to Discover and Honor Your Higher Self, now we've got the self up there. And
Mm-hmm.
then solitude. So let's sort of bridge a gap because I'm pulling, the self is being pulled in different ways, and I don't understand clearly what you're meaning here.
Sure. So the higher self isn't necessarily a geographical location. What
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about is a transcendent place. And what do we mean by transcendent? Again, we don't mean higher as in
Mm-hmm.
physically higher.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about it in terms of our reconnection to source, which is where we all came from. So I like to talk in terms of science because I'm a science geek.
Right.
So when we talk about the our connection to a higher source, or true nature, or what the Taoists call primal unified awareness,
Mm-hmm.
we all come from this. So this is, scientifically speaking, the Big Bang. We are all connected
Mm-hmm.
due to the fact that we all basically came from the same place. We can look at spooky action at a distance. Thank you,
Mm-hmm.
Einstein. That beings, entities that are separated, as we've all been separated
Mm-hmm.
by the Big Bang, still maintain contact and communication with each other, even though they're no longer physically connected.
Mm-hmm.
So when we understand that whatever it is that created the universe
Mm-hmm.
resides within us because we are a product of that creation,
Mm-hmm.
we can better understand that we are not separate from great mystery. We're not separate from the divine, if you want to call it, or
Mm-hmm.
God, if you want to call it, right? So when I talk about our higher self, I'm talking about the self that is stripped of all conditioning, that's stripped of the expectations, as I mentioned earlier, of society, and is reconnected to our purpose on this earth,
Okay.
whatever this lifetime is offering for us, um, to to experience clearly, and enthusiastically and genuinely, so that we can contribute our true selves, not our tainted selves, not our not our socially conditioned selves, right? The persona, if we want to look at
Mm-hmm.
it from Jungian perspective, not our personas, but our true nature and who we are, without the reliance
Okay.
on what others are saying
All right.
we
So
should.
we've mentioned the divine, the source, and all of that. Now,
Mhm.
if you hear the expression to tap into your higher self,
Mhm.
who does that? And why would they do that? Usually,
Great.
you hear, go on, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question. Who does it is you.
Hmm.
Absolutely. So, and it can be
You,
you
as
at
in all of us.
yeah, every
Hmm.
single one of us. That's the whole purpose that we're here, is to find out, what our lessons are, and and to work through whatever it, why am I here? What's my gift to offer the world, which we all have.
Okay.
Um, And it isn't necessarily a big gift. It could just be the gift of caring for loved ones. It could be the gift of feeding the birds. It could be a gift of planting a tree, or just um, every human being that you interact with in your life, you do so with
Okay.
grace and compassion. So it doesn't have to mean that you have some power that you have to give away. Some people do, some or you don't. It's all good.
Well, I get
Mhm.
asked that question quite a bit. What is my soul's purpose?
Mhm.
And um, and like you say, we all have one, right? Let me turn the question around and put it into your virtual community, because you say your therapeutic sessions are completely virtual. A
Yes.
person comes to you, an age. Do you have all age clients of all ages?
Yes. I mean, I am trained to work with all ages,
Mm-hmm.
but with my practice and its speciality, um, I usually end up working with people who have just begun their path of self work and self awareness. So that's usually somewhere between the mid 20s
Okay.
to and up, so it
Okay.
goes up
So,
to.
is it safe to say that people who are drug addicts, alcoholics, are not those people?
Oh no, I work with
Okay.
drug addicts and alcoholics and people who are mentally ill,
Ill.
and
Okay.
yep, yeah.
Okay. So then they come to you for. I mean, what would be the purpose? Are they able to put into a one sentence phrase, "I'm here to understand where I should be going"? Is that is that jive with you?
I'm here to understand why I don't feel in alignment with myself. I don't
Okay.
understand how to show up in the world, and the
Okay.
world is a scary and frightening and ugly place to me. And
Okay.
so, what do I do about that?
All right. And do you, everyone's different, of course, and the way you deal with every single human being obviously would be different depending on what their personal experience is. Is there a common practice or a common group of exercises or a common phase that all of them typically would go through at
Hmm.
one point in the therapy, either the beginning, the middle, or the end? What,
Hmm.
just to give an
Yeah,
example.
as you mentioned, everyone is different, so we might use different tools at different times at different intensities,
Uh huh.
depending on what is necessary. But the work that I do is holistic psychotherapy. So I
Mm-hmm.
work with mind, body, and spirit. And all three of them need to be in alignment for us to really understand the whole of who we are. So some of the exercises we'll do is one, for example, that allows us to sit with unpleasant emotions, which is called a self alignment meditation, where we're actually, so let's say someone is feeling a lot of anxiety
Mm-hmm.
and it's preventing them from doing what they want to do in their life. We
Mm-hmm.
would do the self alignment meditation to bring anxiety into the body. So there's a lot of somatic work that I do.
Somatic work. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we're working with the body as an ally
Mm-hmm.
instead of just this thing we're toting around that gets sick or breaks down or whatever, feels good sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
We're actually working with the power of the body. So we ask for uh, its guidance
Mm-hmm.
to work with anxiety, depression, jealousy, rage, whatever it might be.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so the self alignment meditation allows us to locate that feeling in the body,
Uh-huh.
work with it, and welcome it,
Okay.
because a lot of us just don't want to feel the unpleasant things,
Mm-hmm.
and that's usually what contributes to the problem.
These are sessions that are one on one usually.
Correct.
Okay.
Mhm.
Are there any sessions that you foster that would be small groups or in large groups? Does that ever happen to you?
Yeah. Yes, we haven't done it yet.
Mm-hmm.
I have been looking into doing it, how to do it effectively online.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, that's something that, as you mentioned it, I am trying to pull together right now.
And would they have themes, for example? getting rid of
I have,
anxiety or,
yeah,
you know.
right. So something that I do offer that's similar to that is a workshop called Write Yourself Open. So write yourself open.
Right,
And
like
what
writing or
writing,
right to the right or the left?
right, as in with
Writing.
that, with the pen.
Write yourself
Yeah.
open.
And so I offer these workshops online, and that's similar to what you're talking about,
Mm-hmm.
because what we'll do is we'll have a theme.
Yeah.
Let's One of the ones I did recently was friendship.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do we show up as friends? What do we want from friendship? And what we'll do is we will do a guided meditation
Yeah.
where we're consulting the higher self
Mm-hmm.
and getting information that we need. And then there's writing practice for about 5-10 minutes
Mm-hmm.
based on the meditation. And then we kind of open it up to something like a group therapy session where people will share what their experiences were during the meditation, and we process and integrate what they received, whatever
Uh-huh.
messages they
So
received.
let's
So,
say, all right, that there's a writing. Let's say when you talk about guided meditation, because there are so many different types of meditation, so many guided meditations online, what would it look like in your group?
so with the guided meditation that I use in this workshop, it's a graduated uh, meditation that allows us to just clear out the talking mind and drop into through visualizations that I talk you through,
Okay.
uh, dropping into really the self as an oracle.
Hmm.
And that may show up in many different forms or
Okay. Could I,
shapes.
um, am I safe to say that this type of guided meditation may have some overlap with hypnotherapy, with
Yeah,
hypnosis?
it's very
Hmm.
similar to hypnotherapy. And in fact, I'm also a clinical
Hmm.
hypnotherapist, and I
So
have
am I.
found in my
Hmm.
practice that I prefer calling hypnosis guided
Uh
meditation
huh. I
because
see.
it
That's why
seems
I
to,
went and asked you.
yeah, it's a very good call. Yeah.
So then they have the section on write yourself, right? And typically they just, is it similar to automatic writing, where,
Well, what they're writing about is what they experienced during the
oh, I
meditation. So,
see.
for example,
Mm-hmm.
if in one of my workshops we were working with obstacles, I
Yeah.
believe. What are the obstacles in your life?
Mm-hmm.
And we did the guided meditation, and this particular participant had found herself at the edge of a lake.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a lake she'd been to as a child. She wasn't quite sure why she was there. Um, but she wrote about it. And as she was writing about it, it came clear to her that this was a place her father used to take her.
Uh-huh.
And she had a difficult relationship with her
Mm-hmm.
father. So when it was her turn to speak,
Yeah.
then we were able to process that there was some unresolved issue
Issue.
with her
Mm-hmm.
father, that returning to this beautiful place where she used to enjoy her time with her father
Mm-hmm.
was a message of perhaps healing between the two of them. So what they're writing about is what they experienced in the meditation,
Mm-hmm.
and then we process and integrate it
Mm-hmm.
afterwards.
Do you find that in the reporting phase, the final phase, let's say, are there people who are reticent? They won't share. They're
Oh,
just not ready
absolutely.
to. Does that occur?
Absolutely. Yeah, all the time.
Hmm.
It's completely voluntary, because
Hmm.
remember, they came because they wanted to come.
Right.
And if they have they always have the option not to share, but to just listen
Right.
and absorb.
Hmm.
And that's also beautiful. Just going through the meditation and going through the writing process can be helpful in itself. The rest of it is really up to the individual if they want to take it further
Hmm.
and try to understand what they
Sure.
encountered.
Um, would you like to share with us? I know it's always difficult to talk about clients, but an experience you've had with a client that was so fulfilling for you as a therapist,
Mhm.
and why? Well, I don't know. Maybe allowed you to learn something about yourself, particularly, or something like that.
Yeah. Well, I will say that there's a very interesting phenomenon that happens, and I think a lot of therapists and healers experience this too. Um, it's almost not even like one example,
Yeah.
but one will find that you draw to you the clients and patients that are
For a
appropriate
reason.
for
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
for
Right.
what you're going through. And so there have been many times in my life, in my professional life, that someone will call me out of the blue and say, I'm going through this issue, whatever it might be. Maybe it's, I'll give you an easy one.
Yeah.
Because I'm first and foremost a writer. That's how I started.
Okay.
And so and I was in the middle of a terrible writer's block, and I would get
Yeah.
2 or 3 people calling me up for consultations on how to get back into writing because they had terrible writer's block.
I wonder why.
I'm like, really? Well, okay, let's do this, you know? And so that happens, and every time it does, to me, I think that's like
It's a
love
joy.
letter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Synchronicity.
it's like,
It's lovely.
of
It's
course.
lovely. That's the best part of the work, really. I think,
And that
personally.
really is inspiration to keep doing
Mhm.
what we do,
Right.
because it's as though you're getting a little push saying, yes, you're doing the right
You're
thing. Keep
doing the
going.
right thing. Yeah. Yeah. Well, what do we have in our future? In our, in Italian, there's an expression, you have something hidden in a closet somewhere. What's hidden in the closet for the future, the dream that you put away, that you want to see materialize? Do you know now? Do you have some key words?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know the future, but
Right, sure.
but I certainly have. I do have a sense that yes, we're going through. Humanity is going through what I believe is a very difficult time of growth. I've been calling it the ring of fire. So if
Nice.
any woman who's ever given birth knows what the ring of fire is. It's
That's a
that
good
moment.
title. It's a title for a book.
Well, it was a song too.
Yeah, I know. Johnny Cash, wasn't it?
Yes,
Yeah.
Johnny. I don't think he meant it the same way, but I'm using it. No, but the ring of fire is the moment right before the baby's head passes through.
Yes.
And it's when you're stretched to your most painful.
When you're screaming and
you're
in
screaming.
pain. Yeah.
And it's like it's the absolute worst part of childbirth.
But you don't know it until the baby comes out. You're worried that it could get worse.
Right. And you know that what is about to happen is miraculous. But it's extremely painful in that moment before the birth.
Right.
And that's what I think humanity is going through right now. Is a ring of fire. Everything looks like crap. Everything looks
I still think you should consider it for a title, future book.
And okay, I will. I'm going to write that down.
Yeah, right.
But I do believe that on the other end of it is a new birth of humanity, of how we are going to treat ourselves. And it doesn't happen overnight.
No.
If you remember back in 2012, it was the end of the Mayan calendar and return of Quetzalcoatl and the whole, the world is either going to end or it did end.
In some way.
It did end. And we are seeing 10 years later the results of that. There is a certain necessary death of certain ways that human beings have treated each other. And we're seeing the heightening of all of that hysteria and fear so that we can move into the next iteration.
What I find, it's cyclical. And like you say, 12, now we're in 22. What I find, unfortunately, and it's the cycle of life, you're young, blah, 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 blah. When you mature, it's a little too late. It would be nice to know before and be able to see those things happening as they occur and being mindful of, And unfortunately, we don't, at 20 or 30 even, have the gift of hindsight because there wasn't very much hind back there to see. So history is relative. And what I worry about, well, I'm not worried. I'm not worrying that much, because I'm sure when they get to be my age or your age, they too will say, we're going through a very difficult time again,
Well,
Yeah.
it could be. But remember, and I think of the story of Siddhartha, right?
Yeah.
So what he wants more than anything else is to prevent his son from
Mm.
having the
Yeah.
stupidity that he had.
Yes. Yes. And you
And all
can't
his
do
son
that.
wants to do is go and party.
Yeah. You can't do
So
that. Yeah. Yeah.
and so the ferryman says, yeah, you got to let him go and live his life. Now, we don't know. Remember, we're sparks of the universe, born into this plane, and we have to understand how to be human.
Yeah.
Now, what I am seeing is, especially as a therapist and as a parent, I'm watching that younger and younger people are waking up a hell of a lot
Yeah.
faster than I
Earlier.
did.
Yes. It's true.
So I
It's
am
true.
very appreciative of
Yeah.
that. They are seeking therapy, or they're seeking some knowledge that
Yeah.
I was too in my own head to
Right.
do
Sure.
when I was
Sure.
20, 30.
Sure.
So I do believe that things are
Changing.
evolving, but
Yeah.
we have to go through our stupid
Of
years. We
course.
have to go
Of
through our
course.
growth years of
Yeah.
understanding. I mean, I feel the same way. I look 20 years ago, I wish I knew then what I know now, but that
Yeah.
is the refrain of every older
But we,
person.
yeah.
However,
Yeah.
what we don't have in the West is the reverence for the elder.
Yes.
And I'd
That's
like to see
unfortunate.
that
Yeah. It's
change.
unfortunate.
I'd like to see that change. And I
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
believe that that's changing as well.
Yeah. Um,
And
as
bringing
you
that back
as you were talking, I had to smile. You made me think of something. When I have two children, and my eldest at the time, he was very, very fast, doing everything fast, and he just got on a bicycle and started going. And so here I was in the gardens, in the parks. I was running after him all the time, running after this bicycle, little tiny bone bicycle with wheels. And another mother, said to me, why are you running? What do you think? If he falls? I said, because he's going to fall, probably. What are you going to pick him up halfway through? He's going to go to the sky, and you're going to be there so it'll fall into your eyes. And I felt like a fool, obviously. And you made me think of that. And there's no safety net, for any of us, obviously. And thank goodness someone is bold enough to get on that bike and ride. It is, okay, the beauty of the world is that we are so different. And
yes.
It's hard also to embrace that, because, I could remember saying, I give 150%. Why don't other people give 150% too? And an elderly woman, a very wise woman, would say, how could you expect that? That not everyone can do that.
Right.
And I'm thinking,
Right.
oh, that's right. Not everybody can do the same. And it is a mystery, why this person does something and another person does another thing. But what you're talking about is that there is a common foundation, because you work with the platform, the perspective of thinking that once a person can find their foundation, they will be useful for others. Okay. Now, I still have trouble with understanding the foundation, because when is it, Rachel, that I can say, I got it? Now I have a platform from which I can, then dive into other people and, have embracing other people. What happens? What do you see in the person's eyes when you work with them, when you know that they got it?
It's what I hear. It's what I hear and the way that they speak. And I'll give you an example of a breakthrough line.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm working with someone, and they are very, very attached to validation outside of themselves.
Right.
What are others thinking about me?
Right.
How am I showing up for others? I see a lot of people pleasers in my practice, right?
Yeah.
I hear a breakthrough when someone says, I don't care what anyone else thinks of me. I can move through my life with grace, and I can allow others to do what they do.
Yeah.
But when I check in with myself before I make a decision and I feel open and clear, that's all I need, because that's how I know I'm all right. People can disagree with me,
Yeah, sure.
and we can have a discussion about that. but there's no need to fight. As you said,
Right.
that we live in a very diverse uh, uh, culture of
Mhm.
humans, and necessarily so. It would be boring if we were all the
Yeah.
same. One thing that is similar about all of us, though, is that we are all connected to source and to the true nature of the self. So the foundation of the self is, let me trust what my intuition is telling me that I need to do in my life. That's the foundation, is to say, I
Okay.
don't need someone else to tell me I'm okay. I
Okay.
feel okay.
Okay. Now, the question
Mm,
is, I do a lot of past life regression. So people who
mm,
come to me for past life regression is a certain kind of person. They
mm,
believe in past lives.
mhm.
In your case, when a person comes to you, however they come to you, from word of mouth or whatever, they know what you do, and that's what they're going toward. They
Mhm.
believe that everyone's linked to source, and that, let's say, isn't that an advantage for you and for them? I mean, they are not illiterate when they come to you, or am I wrong?
Some of them are. Some of them are. Some of them have
How?
no idea.
But then how do they get to you unless it's through
Do you
what
mean
is
literally illiterate?
no, illiterate in the sense of illiterate in knowing about source, any form of
Oh,
spirituality.
yeah, of course. I have people who mainly will come to me because they're just sad.
Oh dear.
Period.
Okay. Okay.
And so then we go,
Why
okay, well,
wouldn't but
let's
why
slice that thinner.
come to you instead of someone else? Is it through
Good
someone you know?
question. You'll have to ask them.
Yeah, okay.
I mean,
Okay.
it could be they liked what they read on my website.
I
It could be
see.
that
I
someone
see.
has worked with me and told
I
them,
see.
go to
Sure,
her, she'll
sure.
help.
Sure. Mhm.
Yeah. But
Interesting.
really what I think it is, and from what I've gathered from people who have told me, is traditional therapy didn't work for them.
I see.
And
Okay.
so it's like that whole, I feel sad. Oh, you feel
Okay.
sad. Let's say that. I go much, much deeper,
Mhm.
because there's a lot more, there are a lot more resources that we don't usually tap
Use,
into.
right. Sure,
Mhm.
sure. Well,
Yeah.
now let's go back and summarize. We talked about the self, the foundation of the self, building a strong foundation before you can share with others,
Yeah.
and celebrating your uniqueness. And we didn't touch that much on solitude, but
Mhm.
what is, because you mentioned to me that solitude brings you joy. What is it
Mhm.
about solitude that is so important for the self?
It is the elimination of outside influence. It's the tapping in to the internal voice and the
Uh-huh.
internal guide, which can really only be done in solitude. And in my book, I talk about, this doesn't mean that you have to be a hermit. That's
Right.
actually the opposite of what I mean.
Uh-huh.
What I mean is creating a solitude practice so that you're devoting either 2 minutes or 2 hours
Mm-hmm.
a day to just what gives you joy, something that celebrates who you
Right.
are without anybody else's
Right.
judgment, without anybody
Mm-hmm.
else's expectation. And this can be done whether you live
Yeah.
alone or with partner or with a partner or with family, whatever. It's important to honor even just that process. It's like taking, and you can do anything during this time. You
Uh-huh.
can knit, you can
Right. Sure.
meditate, you can take a
Sure.
bath. You don't want to be on social media. You don't want outside influence. It's about
Sources. Mm-hmm.
saying, let me sit down with Rachel and
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
hey, girl, what do you want to do? What do you want? What will bring you joy right now? And or
Yeah.
it could be just taking a walk and looking at the trees or listening to the
Mm-hmm.
birds and connecting, right? So the reason we do this in solitude is so that we can begin slowly to
Mm-hmm.
trust what messages we receive from the internal
Uh-huh.
self.
Rachel, I have here, I wanted to mention your websites, and I have Rachel Astarte Therapy. That's Rachel,
Mhm,
Astarte
mhm.
Therapy. Is there a .com here?
Yeah,
Okay, okay, I didn't have it.
rachelstartetherapy.com.
And then there's also an Instagram account that is
Mhm,
Rachel Astarte Therapy. And
mhm,
there is a link tree, link to
mhm.
link
Right.
TR, and that is, whoo, Sorry, that's my chair is breaking. And what is this link, tr.ee, Rachel Astarte Therapy? What is that? Linktree.
Yeah, Linktree is basically a platform that allows you click on the one link and it brings all the
I
links up.
see.
So
Okay.
it's sort of like a
So
little
they
hub
will know
center.
where to find you. And all of your services are on your website.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so
Mhm.
much for taking the time out of your very interesting work. It's just marvelous to hear someone who works with that level of intensity and
Yeah.
delicacy, because it's a delicate process. It's very interesting. Thank you again,
Yeah.
Rachel, for
Thank
coming.
you. Thank you, Claudia.
Bye bye.